So good afternoon, one and all present here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Today's program is on the Upanyasa Malika Lecture Series 2. That is the Quality Assurance System. We at NAC conduct series of programs for the benefit of all stakeholders and all higher education institutions. So yesterday we had released a book on quality management system, which all those 7 criteria, information about all those 7 criteria are available in that book. The speaker for today's program is Professor S.C. Sharma, the Director of National Assessment and Accreditation Council. He will be presenting on Introduction to Quality Assurance System. Then there will be a talk on quality assurance models by Dr. S. Srikant Swami, academic consultant, academic expert, research and analysis wing of NAC. Keep watching programs. Try to our intention is quality culture should prevail in all educational institutions. Over to Professor S.C. Sharma, Director NAC.
Namaskar. I'll be talking on introduction to quality assurance system. I'm grateful to Professor Srikant Swami who has taken the initiative of having this lecture series. I'm also grateful to all my colleagues at NAC who have taken personal interest in doing a wonderful job in inculcating quality consciousness across higher educational institution. In the name of quality, internal quality assurance, higher education institutions are organizing a number of programs related to curriculum, teaching, learning, leadership, quality, examination, etc. Quality assurance has emerged in the form of a system. This is very important. And quality assurance system, quality assurance is a systematic review of educational provisions to maintain and improve quality, equity and efficiency. It encompasses both self-evaluation and external evaluation including academic audit. Quality assurance is a vital to create the conditions for facilitating student mobility through enhanced transparency and trust. Quality assurance plays a key role in supporting the higher education institutions, and it has an impact and emphasis on the quality that has moved from the external quality assurance to student learning. And looking at the changing scenario, many countries have set up internal quality assurance cells. In a system that responds to the requirements for internal quality initiatives, sustenance, monitoring and managing institution is very important. It can consider matters associated with teaching learning more effectively than external quality assurance system will be able to. At present, it consists of self-studies and evaluation of units, supervision and assessment of academic programs, carrying out student satisfaction surveys on curriculum, student progression, learning outcomes, program skills. And the rapid expansion of higher education amongst all classes in India has been at the cost of its quality. If economic development happens with quality, then we can say that both education and development are going on in the country, but this quality the institutions vary with. This can be seen in different classes of institutions, and we have good institutions like Indian Institute of Science, IITs, NITs, etc., and ISRs, etc. We also have good university system, but at the same time, there is an expansion in higher education and things are improving, and lot of emphasis is given by the government also for quality assurance, and government has been giving a lot of funds. We are immensely grateful to the central government, University Grants Commission, and all the agencies, even Department of Science and Technology. For example, research in criteria 3, we have about 200 or 250 marks, and where the research emphasis is there. Well, coming back, India established this external quality assurance system in 90s. And regarding concern of quality in higher education, National Policy on Education (NPE) started in 1986, and after that there was Program Action (POA) in 1992, spelled out strategy for strategy plans for policies, promoted the establishment of an independent national accreditation flagship agency. Well, this is very important to note, and this National Assessment and Accreditation Council was established in 1994 as an autonomous institution, as all of you know, under the University Grants Commission. The headquarters is in Bangalore, and the mandate of NAC is to make quality assurance as an integral part of the functioning of higher education, to motivate, to build a strong quality culture within. And NAC's methodology for assessment and accreditation is specifically designed taking into account good practices of quality assurance agencies across the world. And in fact, we have had a lot of interaction with CHIA, APQN, and a lot of other institutions in the world, and we have taken the good practices also. And till recently, we had this self-assessment, that is subjective type of evaluation, and since 2.5 years or 2 years, we have the revised accreditation framework, wherein you have a percentage of 70% with the data verification and validation by the third party, and 30% with a field visit. You know, this is something very unique, and the modules, etc., have been built by our NAC staff. They have been doing a wonderful job in contributing to the nation building and skill development of students. Higher education should demonstrate a drive to develop themselves into center of excellence. Well, when we mention about center of excellence, and in the recently we have been talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, whatever the quality teaching and quality assurance cell, this has to have a field application, and slowly it is moving towards outcome based education, as done in Germany and Japan. Whatever is the theory, that has also been practiced in the practical. For example, I have been repeating this in several of my lectures. If there is an hydraulics lab in mechanical engineering department, when we talk about Bernoulli's theorem or discharge theorem or whatever it is, but we will not know the application of it. Therefore, what we do is, what should be done is take them to the practical aspect of it, and then inculcate the theory, or theory and practical should go hand in hand, and they should have application of mind. This is about science and engineering. Similarly, even in economics or any other field of studies, an innovative concept has to be built in. Therefore, excellence in all that they do will contribute to the overall development of the system of higher education of the countries as a whole. Therefore, quest for excellence could start with the assessment, or even earlier by establishment of the steering committee for the preparation of self-study report, which is very important, and this has direct contact with the internal quality assurance cells of the respective higher education institutions. And another step in this direction could be identification of the strengths and weaknesses in teaching and learning processes as carried out by the institutions through a quality gap analysis, and strength, weakness, opportunity, challenges analysis of the institution. The methodology for subsequent cycles of accreditation remains the same as for the first cycle of assessment and accreditation. However, due consideration would be given to the post-accreditation activities, resulting in quality improvement, quality sustenance, and quality enhancement. And in their SSRs, institutions opting for subsequent cycle of accreditation need to highlight the significant quality sustenance and enhancement measures undertaking during the last 4 years. Therefore, IQAC, that is internal quality assurance cells, have been set up where timely reviews will be taken place, and then every year the higher education institutions will be submitting annual quality assurance reports and our minimum institution. These are minimum institutional requirements to volunteer for second, third, and subsequent cycles of accreditation. Therefore, there is accountability there, and the focus of governance, leadership, and management is captured in the key indicators of the internal quality assurance system. The internal quality assurance systems of higher education institutions are self-regulated responsibilities of higher education institutions aimed at continuous improvement of quality for achieving academic excellence. The institutions have mechanisms for academic and administrative auditing. This is very important, and it adopts quality management strategies in all academic and administrative aspects. That is through the IQAC cell, which I just now mentioned about internal quality assurance cells. Now, institutional emphasis on key indicators among three categories of higher education institutions: universities, affiliated, autonomous, and weightages have been appropriately demarcated. And key weightages of internal quality assurance for universities: 30, autonomous colleges 30, affiliated constituent colleges UG 30 and PG 30. These are some of the intricate details which you can go to the website and see. Data collected from institutions regarding internal quality assurance cell includes how quality assurance cells have contributed significantly for institutionalizing the quality assurance strategies and processes, which encompasses teaching, learning, structure, methodology of operations, and learning outcomes at periodic intervals, etc. And the institutions adopted the following for quality assurance: academic and administrative audit is one, and conferences, seminars, workshops on quality conducted, collaborative quality initiatives, orientation programs on quality issues for teachers, and participation in national NIRF ranking, and any other quality audit recognized by national or even ISO certification, NBA, and such others also. So, list of incremental improvements made for preceding 5 years with regard to quality in case of first cycle, post accreditation quality initiatives, and subsequent cycles of NAC. The private institutions should establish an internal quality assurance cell. Through this, you can know a lot of things, and independent analysis can also be evaluated. Now, well, to summarize the whole thing, to infer, external quality assurance can guarantee maximum level of quality across institution and really can increase the responsibility and accountability in terms of learning outcomes in higher education. IQAC should be very, very vibrant and should take more responsibility to organize innovative initiatives. Thank you very much. Thanks for the patience. Namaste.
Professor Ramya Kumar.
Thank you, sir, for your warm welcome address and also on the introduction to quality assurance system. May I request Dr. Shrikanta Swamiji to please brief us on the quality assurance models?
Yes, Shyaminda, thank you very much. At the outset, I extend my sincere thanks and appreciation to our dynamic director, Professor S.C. Sharmaji, and all the advisors, deputy advisors, and all officials of NAC for having motivated me to take up this lecture series program wherein whatever the experience I have earned, I wanted to just to share, and whatever sincerely I have learned from all quality gurus, I want to share some of these things to the benefit of the stakeholders of higher education institutions. I think I am really happy. Our director has given a beautiful introduction, and from the NAACS perspective has explained the importance of quality assurance in order to maintain standard in higher education institutions. Now I am going to just continue, and today in this lecture series 2, I will be emphasizing more upon some 3 to 4 quality assurance models, how these models are going to be of greater help for higher education institutions. If you simply speak about quality, it is not possible to achieve it. Therefore, let me start straight away with my presentation. Quality is not an act, it is a habit. That's what Aristotle said. Keeping a track of production of quality became increasingly important during the second half of the 20th century. At that time, a whole profession developed 10 issues in education policy, and number 5 around the idea of quality. I think before that, more emphasis was not there technically in the name of quality. Then, after the emergence of quality consciousness, the quality profession or the people who are working for the sake of quality assurance, they have come out with beautiful models, dramatically, so that now it is a whole area of work in itself. Therefore, though it started from industry, now it has spread to education, and people are conscious that the best practices, whatever the industrial people have been following, can also be implemented in the field of education, so that we also can improve quality. Now, in the next slide, you are going to just see what is quality. As I mentioned, I think this part, quality is not an act I mentioned. It is all about quality of life and finding a happy balance between work and friends and family. Quality is never an accident. It cannot come as it is. Behind that, lot of effort, behind that, lot of planning, behind that, lot of execution is there. Excellence is the unlimited ability to improve the quality of what we have to offer in order to achieve. That's what I think great people have said. If you just go back, you will come across some more definitions on this quality. Total quality management is the concept everywhere people are talking. It is also called TQM. Total quality management is the approach which is most often associated with quality assurance. It refers to systems which are developed to monitor all processes that are part of the work of an organization. Supporters of total quality management systems believe that their systems are different from earlier ideas of quality control. Instead of only looking at finished products, all the steps of the production process are examined. Friend, this is very important. There are 2 approaches of referring to the quality. One, refer to the product and decide about the quality. Other one, refer to the process and decide about the quality. I think in education, some of you are very familiar, my dear academicians from various higher education institutions, the concept of CCE, that is continuous comprehensive evaluation. Somewhere this also will speak about 2 types of evaluation. One is called formative, other one is called summative. In formative evaluation, stage by stage, we are going to show incremental improvement. Whereas in summative, at the end only, we are going to find out. Therefore, there is a paradigm shift from the product reference of control to the process reference of control. Now, the total quality management systems generally use the idea of accreditation. Quality management systems are now compulsory in all areas of work, including education. One may have the impression that higher education had no notion of quality. In fact, before 1985, people were not bothered about the concept of quality. Quality consciousness was not there among most of the educationists, but this may not be true to 100%, because people, without speaking more on quality, they were insisting on quality. People who are not technically, not knowing more about quality, informally they were insisting on quality. Therefore, it was there, but now the consciousness made people to go a little more technically to achieve the objectives of quality assurance. Attention to quality is not new. It has always been part of the academic tradition. It is outside world that now emphasize the need for explicit intention to quality may be influenced by industries and corporate sectors. I think everywhere now you are familiar that industries, they always insist upon the total quality management, and then apart from that, the corporate sector also will insist. They have got a lot of programs by means of it they wanted to popularize, and they are getting the benefit out of this. Now the next one is globalization. Impact of globalization is also an important factor, and it created greater amount of awareness among the higher education institutions. Globalization has both positive and negative impact. It offers our graduates the opportunity to enter the world of market, provided they have got up-to-date knowledge and skills. There is need for consumer protection. Our students and their parents are spending a lot of time and money on their education. Therefore, they have the right to receive quality. In the 1950s and 1960s, the nature of higher education, especially in the developed countries, has observed significantly changed. The elite universities changed into an institute of mass education. In fact, in my previous slide also highlighted here under the need for quality, why quality? All academicians want to train the graduates who meet the needs of the society. Our products are of our students. We want to be proud of our products. If we want to be proud of our products, whatever the way in which we are going to process our inputs, that play an important role. Therefore, students we may get from rural side, we may get the students from urban side. How do we socialize these two categories of students in our universities and colleges? How do you prepare them? How do we give the curricular input by means of which they can enrich their knowledge? How do we develop the various kinds of skills like life skills, technical skills, job-oriented skills? Unless the processing is very good, you cannot think of a good product. The job market expects higher education institutions to provide the students with adequate knowledge, skills, and attitude. Friends, this is equally important. Knowledge somewhere or the other you can provide, and they also will get from other sources. Skills also they can develop. But how are we sure about the development of attitude, right type of attitude? Most of the industries and corporate sector, they insist that if the attitude of a student is good, rest of the things will take care of on its own. Therefore, we have to assure attitude of students also. Internationalization of the profession and a world that is becoming a global village brings us greater competition than before. Now, a lot of competition is going on. Earlier, we were preparing the students keeping our national goals, national interest. Now we have to prepare the students as world-class students, world-class citizens, to prepare them to compete with the world-class universities with all their capabilities and skills. A university not only has to compete inside the country, but also with other countries like USA. Now, I think in the next slide, more and more students were being enrolled in higher education and creating pressure in national budgets. Expenditure per student became much lower, but the government had to assure society that this did not endanger quality. As we are all aware, the number of students who are going for higher education compared to other countries, in developing countries, it is more. With all these things, when we compare the GER with the eligibility enrollment ratio, we see that still we are not up to the mark. Still we see that many students are not getting into higher education stream. This is because the fee structure may be one reason, and lack of their support from their family. Economically, some of the students may not be comfortable in paying the fees and go to the higher education institutions. Therefore, this has created a problem, and some of the universities have assured that their fee structure is very low. They wanted to attract the students. But some parents are very much worried, if the fee structure is low, what will happen to the quality? If fee structure is very high, very huge fees means what is the guarantee for the quality? Therefore, somewhere or the other, we have to ponder over this particular issue regarding the fee structure in the universities and the quality of education what we are providing. Some of you must be knowing in Harvard University, if a student wanted to do a master's degree, like MS course, do you know how much they are charging? Harvard may be charging around 42 lakhs for 1.5 year duration. So costly. Many are not afford to get into Harvard or get into some of the standard universities, which will come one among the top 100 universities. But when you just look at the way in which they are giving the inputs to the students, the way in which they are empowering the students, the way in which they are giving freedom and making the students to acquire the necessary skills, especially the 21st century skills, you will be astonished. Therefore, somewhere or the other, we also should keep this particular point in mind whenever we are giving education to our students. On behalf of society, governments wanted to give better insight into the cost and benefits of higher education. Higher education, in their view, cost too much or was not efficient enough. The relationship between higher education and society changed. Society became increasingly interested in higher education. Universities have become the center of knowledge economy. Therefore, a lot of demand is there. Many students wanted to go for higher education. Therefore, keeping this particular demand for higher education, policy makers have to think, and especially those who are implementing the policies also should think how best we can balance so that we can provide quality education to our students. A relationship between higher education and the job market became a topic for discussion. Some disciplines like social science, psychology, history had a lot of students, but a few available jobs. On the other hand, there are disciplines like engineering often had a shortage of students, and society could use more graduates also. Now things are changing, of course. Therefore, how do we balance between the arts disciplines versus the science disciplines, keeping the job market in mind? This is a big challenge. When we wanted to provide quality, we have to keep this also in mind. I think some of the Western countries, it is clear that the demand for science is becoming less, especially for the basic science, it is becoming less. Demand for technology courses, engineering courses, it is becoming more. Maybe it will fetch the students more money. Financially, they may do very well in future. But I think this is a research question one has to ponder over. How best we can do justice in providing the jobs to the students who are coming from social science and psychology background. Such a situation caused pressure on higher education to steer the student flow in desired direction. Quality has become increasingly important for higher education institutions because of question as to whether it is still possible to deliver the same quality within the given framework. Quantity versus quality. Quantity expansion should also assure that there is a quality. Therefore, quality has become increasingly important for higher education institutions because the question as to whether it is still possible to deliver the same quality within the given framework. Early days, universities and academic staff did pay attention to quality, but this was often done in an unstructured way. This is very important. Now there's a paradigm shift everywhere. Experts are talking about quality assurance, which must be structured and which must be imparted. Friends, I think this is equally a point to be considered, point to be noticed, because the unstructured way is unscientific. Unscientific way may not give you the expected result. Therefore, one has to think whatever the efforts we are doing in the name of quality assurance, are we scientific in our approach? Are we practical in our approach? Have we structured our approach? Unless we structured, desired results may not come. Therefore, there is a paradigm shift from unstructured way of attending to this quality assurance mechanism to the structured way of attending to the quality assurance mechanism. Now, friends, what is this quality assurance we are talking? How people have given importance to this quality? How have they given explanation to this? The National Council for Higher Education of Uganda defines quality assurance as the mechanism put in place in guarantee that the education is fit for purpose. This is very important. Education should fit for purpose. is good. Every higher education must have appropriate and effective internal structures and mechanisms for monitoring its quality control procedures to ensure quality. Therefore, argument is going on. Our Professor Sharmaji also has mentioned about the internal quality assurance and external quality assurance. Then where do we strike between these two? Which one we can give more weightage? Whether internally we have to do more or we have to depend upon the external agencies to come and correct us, come and direct us, come and motivate us, and come and create crisis and compulsion by means of which we can do better. The argument is going on, but still experts will say internal structures good, internal quality mechanisms works better, we have to start. Therefore, any higher education institution which has started higher education, it should have a clear-cut objectives of providing higher education to its students. If the objectives are clear in terms of vision, in terms of mission, in terms of core values, I am sure automatically the quality control will happen. The Commission for Higher Education in Kenya defines quality assurance as the means by which an institution can guarantee that the students or the standards and quality of its educational provisions are being maintained and are enhanced. Therefore, institution should give us the guarantee. That's why parents also have got their own perception. If I put my student in such and such a college, I think job is guaranteed. If I put my student in such an university, the job is guaranteed and his life become fruitful. Therefore, always parents have expectations about the institutions. Therefore, the institutions are trying to, for example, we are giving accreditation to the institutions. And most of the higher education institutions, those who are getting A plus or A plus plus, they are highlighting this particular point. In their website, they highlight, they show. Thereby, they are telling the society that we are giving a good education. Why can't you make your students to prefer our university, prefer our college? I think that is the impact of accreditation. Therefore, somewhere or the other, the higher education institutions should assure quality on its own. It is a means through which an institution confirms that conditions are in place for students to achieve standards set by the institution. In most of the countries, Western countries, they say our intention is to give more autonomy to the learner. Learners are our future strength. We don't believe in spoon feeding our students. We are going to empower them, like our earlier national policy on education has emphasized on to one important aspect, like ability to make the students to learn. Don't say I made my students to learn. Say that I developed the necessary abilities and competencies to make my students to learn effectively. In that way, if you develop the abilities, automatically learning will happen. This is what the higher education institution should guarantee, and Kenya believes in this. Thus, quality assurance or quality management may be described as the systematic, structured, and continuous attention to quality in terms of maintaining and improving quality. Continuous quality care is a sign, or it is a sine qua non for quality assurance. I think structured approach is emphasized here. Systematic approach is emphasized here. Continuity is also emphasized here. If you are continuous in our effort, if you are systematic in our effort, if you are structured in our effort, I think it is possible to achieve the quality. Now, one of the tools to ensure quality assurance is quality assessment. Unless we assess, I think it is very difficult to assure the quality. That's why when measurement and evaluation experts says, unless you measure, it is not possible for you to know what you have to guide. The measurement tells us. If a person goes for weighing his own body weight, if the weight shows 130, then he will think twice. Am I in the higher side? If so, what kind of precautions I should take with respect to my food habit? In that way, measurement plays an important role. It is the assessment plays an important role. Unless we assess, it is not possible. That's why NAAC also believes in A&A process, assessment and accreditation. It is the assessment that leads to better accreditation. Now here, it might be based on self-assessment or based on the assessment by external experts. Therefore, some of the universities, they have got self-assessment schemes. And self-assessment is also the best way of judging and trying to know. I have been a classroom teacher for more than 45 years. And every year at the end of the year, I used to give the students a small questionnaire, asking them to give the feedback. And that has helped me to grow step by step. Therefore, self-assessment means I should know the quality of my teaching. I should know the quality of my preparation. I should know the quality of my references by means of which I can make my teaching more effective, more excellent. Therefore, somewhere or the other, the self-awareness, self-assessment, self-consciousness is very much essential. Higher education has developed its own approach to quality assurance during a period of intensive quality assurance. Now, I think this diagram will give you a little more better clarity with respect to quality assurance. When we say quality assurance system, now in a systems approach, on one hand we think of an input, on the other hand we think of the output, in between we think of the processing. As is the input, so will be the output, we say. But processing play an important role. If the input is bad, with better processing, outcome can be better. If the input is very good, with better high quality input, with better high quality processing, I think best things can also be proven way. We can come out in producing the best quality things, best quality products and best quality students. That's why here internal quality assurance, monitoring, evaluation, improvement is one component in that system. External quality assurance, benchmarking, auditing and assessment is another important, and at the same time accreditation. Therefore, these are the three essential components in the quality assurance system. If any higher education institution wanted to insist upon quality, better if they can take note of all these three, and it will help them to do better. The quality assurance system in higher education has internal and external elements. The internal quality assurance including monitoring instruments, evaluation instruments, and activities aiming at improvement. This is equally important. Feedback mechanism. In industry, they believe in feedback mechanism. A person who is working with the lathe machine, after producing so many bolts or nuts, he will be checking how many of them are defective, how many of them are very good or intact. He will be just checking. In the same way, we have to just monitor the internally. External quality assessment includes benchmarking, then the active benchmarking of the activities, external audit, or external quality assessment. I think both are equally important. We have to monitor that. A specific element in the quality assurance system is accreditation. Accreditation is the coping stone of the QAS system. Accreditation, I think 1994 onwards, NAAC has involved in the process of accreditation. Almost 25 years, UMN service has been done by the NAAC. NAAC officials have gone to different parts and thereby made people to know that quality can be monitored, quality can be checked, and quality can be shown. I think so many universities and so many colleges have been accredited. I think accreditation is the coping stone of the quality assessment system. Now in this next slide, I would like to speak a little more on internal quality assurance. Quality is primarily the responsibility of the higher education institutions itself. I think this is what they say. We should not believe that external people should come and correct us. You have started a university, you started a college with a good name, with good intention, with good vision, with good missionary zeal, then you should know in which direction you want to go. Therefore, it is the concern of the institution itself. Although the government has a special responsibility regarding quality assurance in many countries, it is the university and especially its staff and students responsible for providing and assuring the quality. Now one more question comes. The quality, who has to manage there? Management has to manage the quality, students have to manage the quality, or the students now. I think staff members cannot escape, because we are called the human resource developers. Our task is to develop the human resources. Greater responsibility is there, but at the same time, all the three are connected. Students have to work, they know the responsibility, they have to follow the guidance given by the teachers, parents, and they have to work. Similarly, staff members also should realize the responsibility. Thanks to UGC, fat salary is being given to the staff members. Every minute, lot of money is put into their pocket. Therefore, they have to realize the big amount is given because the government, the society, the nation expects the teachers to do wonderful job, because they are involved in the process of developing the human resources, which are going to convert the whole country into a different level, into a different horizon. They will take into, therefore, a lot of responsibilities there among all the three. Therefore, it is important that each university develops an efficient internal quality assurance mechanism. There is no one model that itself is responsible for that. Therefore, how can you go about it? Easy to speak and difficult to act. Then easy to follow but difficult to prove. Therefore, there is no one single model as such. Different people keep on trying, keep on improving, and at the same time coming out with different models and saying, this is my model. If you implement, it will work. This is my model. If you implement, it will work. These are the different phases of my model. Like that, thanks to the management experts, and thanks to the industrial experts, and thanks to the production managers, because of their commitment, because of their concern, they have developed beautiful models by means of which quality can be assured. Now, friends, here one point to discuss. Whenever we are dealing about the products, like machinery products, or the tools, or the equipments, because it is controlled by machines, controlled by softwares, it is easy to monitor the quality. But when you are dealing about the students, human beings, behavior keeps on changing. Environment influences the behavior. In such situation now, can we compare the quality check, what they are doing in industry, with the quality check, what we have to do in academic situation? Maybe difficult, but nothing wrong if you take the principles adopted there in industry to academic situation or to academia, by means of which it is possible here also to produce quality of students. I think let me pass on to the next one, which is also very interesting. As I mentioned, there are different models. Okay. Now here, there are different models, and today I will be referring to some 2 or 3 as I mentioned here. This is one thing that is called Deming cycle. Yesterday we have released one book, Quality Management System in Higher Education. 4 authors are there. Dr. Marima Varghese, a seasoned senior academician, versatile speaker, Tekuntala Katre, then Professor Ravichandra Reddy, and our Sharma ji. All of them have involved in developing such big book. The title is Quality Management System in Higher Education. Around 14 chapters are there. 13 chapters is on a newer initiative in quality. And that book also deals about quality assurance. That book also contains about some of the important models. By referring to this resource book, I am sure most of you are working in the field of higher education, you will get a better knowledge. I always believe awareness leads to attitude, and attitude leads to action. Therefore, if you can refer, if your database is very good, if your knowledge domain is full of newer contents, it is possible for you to apply. This is one Deming cycle. I am giving one as an example taken from that book. It is plan, number 1. It has got 4 important points like planning aspect, then doing aspect, checking aspect, and at the same time acting aspect. Therefore, these 4, you should keep on doing it. You have to plan continuously. Whatever you have planned, you have to just implement it. Whatever you have implemented, you have to check whether the proper implementation is happening or not. Many times we plan. Planning stage is extremely good. When it comes to implementation stage, I think a lot of loopholes, lot of drawbacks. Why it happens? I think we have to replan. So plan, do, check, and act once again. That is the cycle, and the cycle should go on. And in that way, maintaining continuity with respect to these four, I think you are going to move towards quality and you are moving towards establishing the standard on your own. Now, in the next one, that is external quality assurance. Now, 1 or 2 points I wanted to add here. An external quality assurance and accreditation here. A quality assurance system not only has an internal aspect, external elements also exist. The external elements influencing on the internal system is equally good, equally important. For example, for an institution, donation given by the philanthropist, will it not encourage the institution to do better? Or financial assistance given by the, like earlier UGC, now RUSA, like that there are organizations, they are willing to contribute for quality of education in order to improve the quality or enhance the research quality. Lot of funds are also available. Therefore, any kind of additional grants entering into an university, I think it makes people to change. Now we are seeing the impact of NAAC's accreditation, how it has helped some institutions to go and getting a big the amount from the RUSA and a big amount and sanctions from the great research organizations we are seeing. There was somewhere or the other, the external impact is also there. Therefore, one has to keep how best externally I can think of getting some kind of support, resource support, financial support, material support from outside. The external assessment is an important instrument. Then at the same time, encouraging people also to assess and tell us where we are, how we are. External assessment is also an important instrument. A university is also accountable to the outside world. In that way, we always think of the influence of the external agencies, which also monitor and makes people also to improve quality. The United States of America already has a long tradition in this field, but the rest of the world adopted this concept only a few years ago. Among the top 7 innovative countries, if you take maybe America, you have come across, then Korea, then Japan, we say, like that some of the top countries, they have shown that quality means increase of economy. Quality and economic growth will go together, they have already proved. Similarly, with respect to higher education institutions, a general accepted description is about the accreditation. Accreditation is a formal decision based on evaluation of past performance, indicating that certain standards, certain minimum requirements are met. Sometimes accreditation is seen as a bureaucratic process that tries to control higher education, but accreditation may have also positive effects because of 1, 2, 3. I think we have discussed about these aspects now. We are going to discuss even in future also. Therefore, accreditation definitely encourages you, motivates you, and accrediting agencies may create some kind of anxiety when they come for the peer team visits, no doubt, but at the same time, by doing the SWOT analysis, they will tell you where you are strong, where you are weak, where you can proceed further. Now, the next one is with respect to the accreditation is never an end in itself, but should rather serve higher education. I think this part is also clear. I will not touch upon much on this. That's why we go for first cycle, we go for second cycle, third cycle, fourth cycle. And gradually we have to see cycle 1 to cycle 2 improvement should be there. Cycle 2 to 3, 3 to 4 improvement should be there. We have done one trend analysis study from the research analysis wing of NAAC, where we have shown in some cases cycle 1 they were not good, in cycle 2, 3 they were good. In some situations cycle 1 and 2 they were good, but not in 3 because of various factors influencing, like the staff members leaving, not appointing the staff. There are various other reasons responsible, a change of the principal or the change of the head. Many factors are there. But however, internal quality assurance is equally important. Need to establish internal quality assurance cell. I think Professor Sharma ji also has mentioned, after accreditation, if you wanted to grow continuously, better you establish internal quality assurance cell. Every year, conduct so many activities and submit a report to accrediting agencies. By submitting, you yourself will come to know what is the improvement that you are going to get, and what is the impact that you are going to have. Now, friends, in the next one, under the models of quality assessment, I think there are many models now. Keeping the time factor in mind, I am going to touch upon some 3 or 4, 5 here. The first one, which I've already mentioned about the total quality management system, or TQM, Baldrige criteria, ISO concept, I think ISO 2000, some people will say, ISO 9001, some of these technical things are there. Capability maturity model, Six Sigma model, like that, some of these models are there. And I will be referring to the first one is known as the total quality management. It has evolved as an overriding concept in the field of quality in recent years. It is a philosophy that subsumes earlier methods of inspection, quality control, and quality assurance. TQM assumes that quality is what the consumer of the service or the product perceives. Total quality management is a people-driven process. It involves changes in people's attitude primarily. This is very, very important. Unless we change the attitude, difficult to make people also to act. Therefore, if an organization is not doing well, people who are in the organizations, we have to see whether they have got positive attitude, commitment. If these things are missing, I think the concept of TQM may not work at all. It strives for empowerment and autonomy of the people involved in using production processes. It asks people to continuously look for new ways to adapt to the changing environment. I think in the concept of NAAC is also insisting upon that. In the concept of total quality management, we always will say how many factors are involved in the process of quality. Every element involved in the process of quality should be considered. Every element, every aspect. In some of the 3-star or 5-star hotels, you go there, the type of cups what they are providing speaks about quality. The way they are maintaining the table with some kind of proper sanitation and other things, you come across quality. The way in which they are going to welcome you, quality. Like that, total quality management means whatever you do in every aspect, you should be able to prove that quality is there, quality is there. Toilet, quality is there. Water facilities, quality is there. I think depending upon that, one is the source and quality, they are related, no doubt. If sources are not there, sir, how do you manage the quality? But experts of quality and quality gurus, management gurus, they'll say, with whatever the existing resources you are having, still you can maintain quality. I think this is an important point, and here I mentioned, in these cases, what we do, we define quality. What do you mean by quality according to you? In my institution, quality means producing result, maybe defining the quality. Then improving the quality, improving the results is my concern. Then measuring the quality. Last year, how much? Year before last year, how much now? Then how exactly it should be? There are organizations continuously, they are getting the results less than 40%, less than 50%. They give their own old reasons for it. But quality, people will say, your strategies are not good, better you change your strategy to rural quality management so that you can improve and you can just produce quality and improvement, gradual improvement, increment, you are going to just show. I think defining quality I have already discussed, sir also has mentioned. Defining quality means developing expectations or standards of quality. Standards can be developed for inputs, process or outcomes, very important. So for inputs also, what is the quality? That's why in some of the organizations, why the entry test is there? Why do they conduct entrance test? Therefore, they wanted to check the quality at the entry point. Then processing part, why do they say we want a staff member with PhD, with postdoctoral experience, a staff with 10 years of experience, 15 years of experience? Because people with lot of experience and with lot of academic credentials, they can contribute better. I think in that way, input, process, and output, all these things aspects now, people are talking about the quality, and quality is very important. Now, in the next slide, you will be just seeing a few key points in the measurement deserve highlighting aspects. If one start the quality assurance approach with measuring quality, the scope of measurement should be limited to what the system is able or willing to improve. Now, many times we aspire at a higher level, aspiration at the scale level, achievement is at the molecular level, we say. Aspiration at the scale level, achievement is the molecular level. Therefore, if you wanted to aspire something, we should know our limitations. We should know our strengths, without which I think difficult to fix the target, difficult to fix the goal. In psychology, we used to have one small game, like fixing the 3 wickets, asking a person to throw, or keeping a bucket, asking a person to put the ring into the bucket. We used to keep it at a longer distance. The fellow throws, he will never reach. Then we used to ask the man, can you take the bucket closer to you in a convenient way, wherein you can put it? A fellow may put it very close to him and put it. Then we say, no, he's not going to put any kind of effort. That's why he's doing. Or you put it at some kind of average and above level, then you will try to know the effort what he is going to put. Therefore, goal fixing is important. Aspirations means practicality and aspiration should go together. I think that's what I am highlighting here. The quality assurance team must be realistic about what data the team can readily collect and at the facility level or across the system. A simple performance monitoring system with a limited number of indicators related to the improvement goal is usually very effective. I think this important point they are highlighting. And in order to improve the quality, I think in the next slide they have given, identify and determine what one wants to improve. Second point, analyze the system of care, or analyze the system of the problem, analyze the problem, develop an hypothesis, test the hypothesis, and based on the results of testing, decide whether to abandon or modify or implement the solutions. I think this is similar to our scientific method of doing it. I think I have highlighted this point. And measuring quality consists of quantifying the current level of performance or compliance with the expected standards. This process requires identifying indicators of performance, collecting data, and analyzing information. I think this is a scientific approach. Measuring quality means you have to collect the information, then you have to measure the quality, and after measuring the quality, you have to indicate to the people what exactly it is, where do we stand, how we can improve, how we can set up the standard. Now in the next one, you will be seeing measurement strategies are also there. Now in the measurement strategies, they use various kinds of strategies, like they use a survey, self-assessment method, auditing method, supervision method, or visiting method, and carefully designed some of these methods by the stakeholders also will help them. How do you measure? Like the principal of an institution going around the college when the classes are going on, he follows his own method. Thereby he ensures disciplines. Students also will come to know how principal is moving. Staff members also will come to know principal is moving. Therefore, somewhere different people will adopt different techniques by means of which they get some kind of evidences, and based upon that evidence, they can establish some kind of indicators to monitor the quality. Okay. Now in this Baldrige criteria, this is another method that was followed in the United States of America. Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award is the highest award for performance of excellence managed by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Therefore, any kind of technical institute or industry, if they are doing something excellence, they can apply for this award and they can get the award. They do keep certain criteria by means of which they can give the award to this technical industrial unit. Therefore, this was introduced. Ultimately, the message through this is they were quality conscious, and the quality parameters that they had, and using the quality parameters, they used to judge which institute or which technological institute is doing well, which one is not doing well. Like that, they used to differentiate and they used to give. And this was introduced in order to know how quality can be ascertained, how people can be encouraged. Now, apart from that, you also must be knowing this ISO 9000, ISO 9001 and 2015 also. And I am not very good in this particular area, but I have heard. And they give a lot of certifications. There are many agents, there are many people who are involved here. You can apply, you can, they will come, they do a lot of auditing, they will give you some kind of certificate, they will give you some kind of feedback, where you are strong, where you are not strong. Like we follow our 7 criteria for accreditation, assessment accreditation in NAAC, like that they have got their own schemes. By means of it, they come and they will just assess you. They will tell you where you are weak, where you are strong, how you can improve. Lot of suggestions that they are going to give. That's why many engineering colleges, many even degree colleges, they say, sir, we have got ISO certificate. Therefore, this is an important certificate courses people are taking in order to get some kind of accreditation to their own institutions. And it is something like an international organization for standard, like our ISI mark for our prestige pressure cooker. Earlier we used to get it. Everybody used to go for the pressure cooker because it had a mark known as ISI mark. Like that, many institutions, they have got this kind of certificates. Details are available. You can go to some sources, websites, specific sites. Registered, you will be getting a lot of information about that. Now the next one is known as capability maturity model. This is another interesting model now. It is called capability maturity model. The US Air Force funded the capability maturity model initially at the Carnegie Mellon Software Engineering Institute. The CMM was originally intended as a tool to evaluate the ability of government contractors to perform a contracted software project. The model goes, and though the model is designed for software development, it can be used in another setting as a measure to assess the maturity of the processes. Therefore, the main essence is there. I may not go very much in detail, but 1 or 2 points I will be highlighting. The CMM believes that mature organizations possess an organization-wide ability for managing objective development and maintenance of processes, leading to predictable quality outputs and outcomes. It is something like the maturity level of the organization. If the organization has got a higher level of maturity, in the sense, higher level of service, higher level of achievement, higher level of recognition, they can contribute better. Like L&T, you have come across. Recently, people have recognized lot of demand is also there. In that way, they want to, this model indicates now, unless the maturity level of an organization is higher, it is very difficult to show any kind of quality improvement. So better, whenever you are giving any kind of contract, or whenever you are giving any kind of out resources or outsourcing certain things in your institution, make sure that the external agent should have higher maturity level, by means of which it is possible for him to help you to develop quality in your organization. The CMM recognize 5 maturity levels as defined here. One, initial level. Second one is called the repeatable level. Third one is a stage where they can define, that's called definition, defined the software. Both they define, this is our work, this is what we are going to do, this is how we will be doing it, this is how we are going to measure. Like that, they are going to define how they are going to define, that will give a clarity how they are going to process it. This is very important. In most of the American hospitals, I've come across through my friends, if any patient goes there for the kind of treatment, and they are going to train that person, prepare that person very in advance. They say, I am so and so, my name is so and so, I am specialized here, you have been invited today, I will be doing this operation, it takes so much of time. In that way, people will define themselves what they are going to do. I think that is the point that they are discussing. Then managing, this is how we are going to manage, this is how we are going to utilize the resources, financial resources. Then ultimately, this is what we are intending to optimize in your organization. Optimal level of, it is like many institutions are having lot of resources, engineering colleges, technical universities, lot of human resources, financial resources, infrastructure facilities. But when you do the cost benefit analysis, how many students are getting the benefit? Between 9 to 5 it is used. After 5 o'clock, what will happen to the resources? So somewhere or the other, the CMM model tells that organization is matured enough, they can contribute, but they have to follow all these things. Now, lastly, I will be just referring to the Six Sigma. The Six Sigma is a quality assessment and model originated at Motorola in the early 1980s. Motorola company, you have heard, as early as 1980s, they have adopted this model. Since then, it has been used in many business establishments covering General Electric, Ford Company, Delphi, Texas Instruments, like that many companies, they started following the technique followed by this Motorola company in the name of Six Sigma to improve the quality of production. Six Sigma is slowly getting into academia as teaching course, and academic institutions are also trying to apply this model for quality assessment and improvement. Now they are using. There's a paradigm shift, as I said. Many deemed universities I have come across, they have been trained in Six Sigma, and they have got different belts also. Like they say, I've got yellow belt, different types of belts of certification that they'll be giving. Sigma, friends, Sigma refers to standard deviation. This is a statistical method. You are all familiar about the normal probability curve. Normal probability curve, we have got the mean at the center. Then we have got one standard deviation distance, second standard deviation distance, third standard deviation distance, like +1, +2, +3, half of the curve. In the other half of the curve, they will be having -1, -2, -3. Between -3 and +3, in the normal probability curve area, I think 99% the area is covered. The remaining area is left over. Therefore, they believe in a good organization now, the maximum quality should be there. Only on the border cases, the quality may be given little margin. Defect allowed there. In the industrial sector, any kind of instrument that is coming out of it, they say 3.4 out of 1 million. 3.4 out of 1 million defect is allowed. If an Apple company is producing 1 million smartphones, I think 3.4, approximately 4 phones out of 4, fine, that is okay, if it is not good. But out of 1 million, if the company says 100 or 200 are defective, means there is no demand. There's a beautiful concept, Six Sigma concept, a beautiful methodology they are insisting upon. And even when we go to the bank using our ATM cards, the machine gives the exact money. I want 6,000, means 6,000 will be getting, 5 will be getting. And they have tested this. Otherwise, for one person, 5,000, if he's asking for 6,610, if it happens, what will happen to the bank? That means to that extent, they are guaranteeing the quality. Out of 1 million people, for some 3 or 4 people, it may not serve properly. Majority of the people will be getting it. I think that's a beautiful concept that they have given in Six Sigma. I think I will go in brief only because I am not an expert. There are people, but I am aware about some of this concept. That's why I'm just sharing with my friends who haven't heard of this, maybe in their day-to-day situation. Now, understanding Six Sigma also, I said, Six Sigma evolved to define numerous ideas within the business sphere, and is sometimes confusing for some people. First, it is a statistical benchmark. I said, any business process which produces less than 3.4 defects per million chances is considered efficient. 3.4 defective things per million is excused, but not more than that. To that extent, they have to improve their efficiency, improve their productions. That concept we are applying in the field of education. I think people also will speak about the 5 important steps followed in Six Sigma, and that's what they call it as DMAIC, D-M-A-I-C. And here, D means they are going to define. Let me see whether it's in the next slide. D means they are going to define. M means they are going to measure. A means they'll be analyzing. And this method is very interesting and very much useful also for the people to follow. Then, apart from that, they also have modified this in another model known as Lean Six Sigma model. One is a Sigma model, other one is called a Lean Six Sigma model. But they use this DMAIC method in both the cases now. But in one case, if you are already having a methodology in your system, how to proceed? If you are already established an institution, technical university, how do you run? Maybe one model. Other one, you are intending to develop a technical university. When you wanted to develop or intended to design, how do you proceed? I think somewhere I've come across the examples given by some car industries wherein some cars produced in a company had a defect in the windshield, or what do you call it, wiper. Lot of defects. Therefore, automatically the industry or the number of car sales, it has come down. They did not know the reason. Later on, they came to know everything is okay, but that wiper is not good. Wiper is defective. That's why nobody is interested to purchase your car because wiper is bad. Then they went for Six Sigma, rectified. Ultimately, the production became higher. Many cars started selling. Then similarly, if somebody says car design is not good, you must have come across in the market, so many cars came. Some designs are accepted by majority of the people. Some designs are not accepted. Therefore, they said, now how can I do a better designing using the 5 important steps of Six Sigma? People have adopted, they are doing it. Therefore, I expect my friends who are participating here to go a little more in depth into all these aspects, like defining, as I said, measuring, I said, analyzing, I said, improving and control. Very important. Define how exactly your education institution should be. Measure and prove where you are weak, where you are strong. Analyze your strong and weak points. Try to improve upon and ultimately try to control some of the places where improvement is not there. I think that's what it speaks about it. I will not go into the details. Now, friends, lastly, I wanted to just conclude in saying continuous orientation and training regarding quality parameters is equally important. I have come across institutions which have gone for third cycle, fourth cycle. They know how to do. Even without the external accrediting agency getting into, they know how to maintain quality. They have grown to that particular extent. That's why first point, continuous orientation in the institution and training for the faculty members regarding quality parameters. Conducting continuous seminars, workshops on various quality management models. Various models I mentioned just now, 1 or 2, 3. You invite experts, conduct 1-day program, 2 days program, very nicely they conduct it, get oriented and work in that particular direction. Implementing quality assurance models in your institution is very important. And afterwards, make sure whether whatever you have implemented in the name of these models, whether they are giving or yielding good results or not. You have to verify. I think since they are all scientific and systematically proven methods, results also will be there, provided with commitment you are going to implement. Friends, this is what I want to share today. This is lecture series 2. I think in the coming lecture series, we are going to share some more important ideas. Therefore, I thank all of you for your active participation. Thank you, and thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Shrikanta sir. You have briefly highlighted on quality assurance models. You have rightly said that quality is not an act, it's a habit. Quality is not accident. You have to make a lot of efforts in achieving it. Excellence, total quality management system, internationalization, Six Sigma. We have been highly benefited with your expertise and knowledge sharing regarding the topic, sir. We are indeed grateful to you. Moving ahead, I think there would be a lot of question and answer sessions after listening to the knowledge resource person of today. May I request Samuel sir also to please facilitate in the question and answer session with the technical experts available. Samuel sir?
Yes, sir. Pushalakshmi is here.
Yeah, please share.
So there is a question from Dr. Krishna Gopal Bhattacharya. The question is, one particular area of concern is applying the same benchmark with respect of research and consultancy to a young university existing for say 10 years as the to a university of 50 years or more.
I think that's a good question. That's why when we are going for the benchmark, experts who are involved, who have involved in developing the benchmark are also conscious. They keep both the extreme cases. Because an university which is 50 years old, we cannot reduce the benchmark, nor an university which is quite young cannot increase. Therefore, based upon some kind of evidences, that's why whenever we are developing a manual, we go for testing. And when we go for testing, we collect the information from all the stakeholders based on which we are going to develop the benchmark. Therefore, We cannot keep the same thing. However, you cannot have a different for an young institution and a different benchmark for the older institution. We cannot have. But we have kept this also indirectly while developing the benchmark or fixing the benchmark. I think that's what I want to share at this time. Okay, next question.
Thank you, sir. One more question from Dr. Deepa Mishra.
Yeah.
The question is, can NAC make it compulsory for colleges to display all policies, mechanism, and SOP in the college websites as a first step to prepare the quality assurance? It should be mandate to complete the process within a specific time, whether the college is going for accreditation or not. Otherwise, it becomes an exercise only during NAC visit to keep things ready. I feel all colleges should be mandated to complete this process within a given time for common people. Your comments on this?
Yeah, I think compared to me, there are many experts in NAC. There are many experts, maybe Jagannath Patil ji, maybe I do not know, they are not participating, or I'm not aware, or Sham Sundar ji. I think they are all very good. They can explain better. They can still write to them. But however, I would like to mention this. This is my personal opinion. Nothing wrong if you put these things in your website. Make it very clear that you are concerned with the quality. You want support from all stakeholders now. Therefore, you can put your plan on the website, your institutional website, nothing wrong in it. Make it public. Let the people give their opinion. But you keep an eye how much to put it on the website and what should be put it and what should not be put it. I think you have to take a decision. Otherwise, I think it is better. That is why in the name of assessors orientation training program, we have shared many things for the assessors. Similarly, under the awareness program also, we have made institutions to know what they have to do, how they have to do, how to proceed for accreditation. I think a lot of inputs have been given, and many NAC officials are working in that direction. If they can write specifically to any one of the advisors, they also will support and encourage and help them in a structured way to do it better. Therefore, in my opinion, nothing wrong if they wanted to put it into their own institutional website and create an awareness among all the stakeholders and get their opinion and proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. One more question from Dr. K.V. Anand. What specific measures we can take to inculcate right attitude along with knowledge and skills?
Okay. I think it is a simple question, but makes us to think quite a lot. Now, friends, I think knowledge easy to develop. You can make the students, a mature person can be made to get the knowledge. If it is a simple knowledge, he will learn on his own. If it is little bit of a complex knowledge with support or with guidance, he will learn better. A little more technical, he will learn better with the help of audio, visual, or multimedia systems. But when it comes to the attitude, what is this attitude? Attitude is nothing but the mental reaction of an individual. Mental reaction of an individual towards an object, towards a thing, towards a person, towards an institution. Different people have got the different types of attitude because attitude is acquired. We interact with the people and we acquire. If you move with the good people, positive people now, our attitude will be more towards desirable way of performing the things. Or if you move with the negative people, if you move with the pessimistic people, our attitude will be undesirable. Therefore, as a person from the institution, you have to socialize your children better, make your students to expose to positive things, positive ideas, make them to come across by presenting successful stories from industry as well as academia, make them to know, thereby such kind of orientation makes them to acquire the right type of attitude. Therefore, attitude cannot be developed all of a sudden, but it is possible to develop and possible to change. Many behavior modification theories also have proved that anyone's attitude can also be changed. Change of place helps him to improve his attitude. Okay, a change of interaction with the people makes him to change his attitude. Therefore, attitude can be changed, corrected to some extent, unless otherwise inherited influence is much more. Thank you, sir. It's a good question. It is. Please try with all these hints, whatever I have given. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. One final question. When there is a shortage of funds, how to deal with the quality?
Good.
From Dr.
Then-
Chandrasekhar Patnaik.
Yeah. I think Chandrasekhar Patnaik, a good question you have asked. But sometimes, there are hotels wherein one meal, 1,000 rupees. After eating that meal, we come back and tell quality was not good. On the other hand, with 100 rupees, we have taken the meal and we have come back and we have told, I think, good food. In that way, quality is little bit relative in term. Though money and finance contributes for quality, in some places now, monitoring certain things, manipulating certain things also helps in improving the quality. Therefore, within the available, that's what I mentioned, within the available income, how best you can improve the quality, there are beautiful strategies involved behind. Therefore, you have to adapt, and by means of which it is possible for you to do it. There are two things, whatever you are having, you manage. A person with 5 lakhs rupees per month, how he manages? A person with 40,000 rupees, how he manages? Sometimes if we compare, we see quality is good with the person with less salary manages. Sometimes reducing unnecessary expenditure, reducing unnecessary, unavoidable things which are of no use to us. In that way, are we not managing? In the same way, by following some kind of filtering process with the available fund, it is possible to maintain quality. Experts are there, experienced people are there. Take their advice, proceed. I think it is possible. But I can tell you, I also mentioned, there are universities wherein they have got a department of finance raising. Finance raising, how to mobilize the resources, they are there. Please contact them. They will tell you how to get the finance in a desirable manner in order to provide quality in your organization. It is possible. Discuss, sir. With your positive mind, I am sure it is possible for you to get the resources also, and you can proceed. Thank you, Patnaik. That's what I have to just share with you. Okay. Sure, madam, anything? Pusharani, madam, any question?
Yes, sir. I'm checking, sir. One second.
Yeah. Time factor is also you can keep, and then you can. The first
I think
question
it's
was
5:53. We can wind up, sir. I think so.
Yeah. Last point, because one person has asked about that research, like for example, number of publications an individual has made in an institution. Thereby, young or old, we don't differentiate. Therefore, somewhere or the other, because he spoke about the benchmark, the first question one was asked, in that way, experts have taken care about both the extremes case. But on the other hand, I think there are institutions which have come up 10 years back. They are doing very well. There are institutions which have established 40 or 45 years. They are going down. We call that as a mighty fall. Mighty fall is also happening. Therefore, do not be disheartened if your institution is an young one. Please follow the footprints of great institutions who have established long back, but still they are doing consistently with lot of sustainability, like Harvard, Oxford, and other universities. Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, how they are managing with so many long years of existence with sustainability. If the certain tips, principles, if we can follow, read some of their achievements, it is possible for you also to gear up and come up to that level. I think if there are no questions, I thank from my side sincerely our director. I thank.
Excuse me,
And
sir.
all those, any question?
Yes, sir. Dr. S.B. Nageshwara has raised his virtual hand. I'll
Okay, all right.
unmute him, sir.
Okay.
Dr. Nageshwara, you can ask your question, sir.
Sir,
Yeah.
good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Tell me.
Sir, today we had a feast to our ears. Very
thank
nice lecture, sir.
Thank you.
And all through you said that students are our products.
Yes,
If the product good, customer will come back.
correct.
If the product is not good, product will come back.
Repeat.
If the product is good, customer will come back.
Correct.
If the product is not good, the product will come back.
Product
in
will come.
marketing, in marketing, what we say.
Okay.
But here, You said that Harvard is charging 42 lakhs.
Yeah,
And at the same time, our product should be fit into the market.
yeah.
I hope I am clear, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
But
sir.
India is a diversified country.
Yeah.
And you said we will get good output only when the input is good.
Only when
India
the
is a
input.
diversified country with the middle class and lower class people.
1 minute correction. I did
Ah.
not say only if the input is good, output will be better. I did not say. I said, as if the input, so will be the output. Let me repeat. As if the input, so will be the output. Number one.
Okay.
If the input is extremely good, we can still processing it better. If the
Okay.
input is not good, even then with better processing, we can improve upon that also. Let me repeat. That's what I said. Okay, proceed.
No, okay. So I am coming to the point. But India
Ah.
is a diversified country with the majority of the people are not affordable, as you said in Harvard. But how to get this structured quality assurance and how to get a position in the top 100 universities?
Sir, good question, but many experts are there to answer. But in a humble way, in a sincere way, let me make an attempt. Now, what I am saying, we cannot compare our universities with that other Western countries, because some of them have started how many years back? 325 years back they have started. They had clarity and good definition of university 300 years back. But some of us, we came to know a little bit later. Therefore, we should not compare, number one. But nothing wrong if we aspire to go up to that level and compete with them. Therefore, we must be humble in our approach and challenge in our spirit. Therefore, we have to gear up to that level and we have to proceed. Therefore, what I am suggesting, if you are having a 3-star status, proceed to 4-star. If you are having a B grade, proceed to the B++. If you are having already A, proceed to A++. In that way, we all of us should make continuous effort in a developing country like India, so that with this kind of consciousness about the quality, within a short period, I think we can come up. We can maintain our own standard. Therefore, always I used to tell some students like this as a professor, you do not compare yourselves with the other students unnecessarily. Try to compare how you were earlier, how you are now, how you wanted to be in future. I think that's why yesterday my university was not good. Only ordinary students were coming. Now good students are coming because we maintain the standard. Our product is good, demand is more. In that way, gradually, if we can move, Nageshwar, I think it is possible that we can achieve that. Therefore, let us not compare. Somewhere or the other, we can have that way of comparing in one level, just to set a goal or just to have some kind of aim. Other than that, now we have to look back how we were, how we are we going, incremental growth is there or not now. That way, continuously, if you can move, it is possible that we can reach the growth at the earliest level. I don't know if I'm convinced you or not. That's why I said there are other people who can just convince you in a different way. This is my humble approach to convince you. Therefore, we have to. Like 40 years back, how we were, how are we now? 20 years back, how we were, how are we now? In the context of globalization, somewhere or the other, it influences even an underdeveloped country also to come up, because the force is like that. The external force is in such a way either to prove quality and exist, or to run away without existing. Whatever these two alternatives are there, only two. Therefore, if you want to exist now, want to compete now, you have to take care of all these things. Sir.
Yes, sir. I think we can close the session, sir. We have come to end.
Okay. Once again, I thank you. Professor Ramya Kumar ji, I hope he is not there. You also would have joined in answering. Thank you very much. I thank all of them for watching this video and giving me an opportunity for me to brush up myself and also to get some kind of my earlier data, refreshed data, to present the same thing to enlighten higher educational faculty members like you all. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Dr. Shyam Singh Inda, sir?
Thank you, Shikanta, sir.
Yeah.
Feeling gratitude but not expressing, it's like wrapping the present but not gifting. A very good evening to all of you. I'd like to first thank our Honorable Director, Dr. Yashi Sharma, for Sir's continued support and encouragement for organizing this webinar. I would like to thank Professor Ramaya Kumarat, Advisor NAC, for being a cornerstone in organizing this webinar as it has came out. I'd like to have a special mention of Dr. Shikanta Swami, sir, academic expert, research and analyst wing, for his insightful and knowledge, experience sharing with all of us. On behalf of NOC, a hearty thanks to all the participants for their gracious presence, participation, and support for organizing this webinar. Special thanks to NAC officers, advisors, deputy advisors, assistant advisors, and support staff who helped in organizing this webinar. Last but not the least, we are thankful to each and everybody who were directly and indirectly involved in making this webinar a great success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shamsuna. Thank you, Samir. Thank you. Thank you, Suresh. No, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you. Close.